Okay, without further ado, let me welcome to the stage actor Lou de Laâge. Actor Luke Kirby. Actor Charlotte Gainsbourg. Actor Alex Borstein. This is going exactly how I thought it would. Okay, up next, the dear, dear actor Kelly Bishop. Actor Rachel Brosnahan. Okay, I think I'm gonna need earplugs on this one. Actor Lauren Graham. Writer, director, and executive producer Daniel Palladino. And now may I present the magnificent, the magical, the marvelous Amy Sherman-Palladino.
Oh, it's like twisty.
Not at all weird.
On a count.
Amy, this is your life. This feels like
Jesus, I know, and I spent the whole red carpet staring at Lauren's ass and Rachel's tits. The whole red carpet. I just kept talking about important lines that mean something to me, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, fuck Lauren's ass. And I'd be like, they'd be like, what, can we write that down? Is that something about Lorelei's ass? Thank you, yes. I'm having a fight with this cord. I'm gonna be fine.
There you go.
Okay.
And that's an apt beginning to what is going to be a colorful evening.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you and good night. So before we get started, and because people like this woman whose name I'm about to say don't often get acknowledged, I want to say a thank you to a hidden hero in tonight's event, Tiffany Shin from Prime Video.
Yes!
Tiffany's way too humble for anyone to know this, but she's the one who had the idea to assemble this incredible group of people. And here we are tonight. You made it happen, Tiffany. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, before we talk about all things Amy, I have an icebreaker question for the group. Because PaleyFest is a celebration of the best in television, I'd like each of you to reveal the television series that changed your life, either as a fan, as a performer, or something that made you want to do the job that you do. So, Luke, I'll start with you.
There was a show when I was young called The Littlest Hobo.
Is that a Canadian show by chance?
Sure is.
It sounds very Canadian.
It sure is.
Is that included when we buy Canada?
Yep,
Is that included
yep.
in the package?
You're gonna regret it.
We get Luke Kirby and the Little
You're
Hobo.
gonna regret it.
Remake.
The Littlest Hobo. The Littlest Hobo. It's about a dog who travels around from town to town. It's like The Fugitive. But it's a German Shepherd, I think, ish. And he saves people. He's a nice Canadian
Kind of
dog.
like Highway to Heaven vibe too.
Very
like,
high. Yeah, except there's no God in it.
Okay, there's no God. A
In the
godless
Littlest
dog
Hobo.
story. Well, that's a great, rousing beginning to this. And Alex?
I was drawn to a show called The Biggest Hobo. Because it was American. That's impossible. There's two that were seminal for me. One was Remington Steele.
Wow.
Remington Steele.
I invented him. I liked the idea of a woman inventing a man. And I love Charlie's Angels.
Excellent choices. Rachel?
Probably The Twilight Zone. It scared the shit out of me. And I wasn't supposed to watch it. And so I used to stay up really late at night watching The Twilight Zone in my parents'
And you were not
basement.
watching this live, obviously. You were watching later episodes.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would replay, I think on Nick at Night. I'm not, thank you for pointing that out.
Yes.
I feel older every day. I think it would replay on Nick at Night. And it scared the crap out of me, but I loved it. And I just thought it was so weird and delightful and loved the music and
Love it.
made me want to be an actor.
Daniel?
I watched a lot of TV growing up, but I would say the big show for me was Monty Python.
Okay.
For sure. And
You've been talking about Bonanza for a week and a half, and it's Monty Python?
yeah, it's Monty Python. Bonanza was a joke. Monty Python is my comedy Bible.
Good choice. Lauren?
Oh, I thought you were going to go to Amy.
I'm going to do Amy last because she's the queen.
Okay, I was a television freak, and I watched all kinds of TV that I wasn't supposed to watch, and I think at different times, and some in reruns and some not. Rhoda, Laverne and Shirley, I'm 100, and Saturday Night Live. I was allowed to stay up, thank you, for Saturday Night Live, and it just, I have stuck with it. I don't care what the haters say, and it just meant a lot to me. I don't know.
Same, of course. Kelly?
Well, you think you're old. How about Sid Caesar's Show of Shows? And we had Mel
Nice.
Brooks,
Good writing
and we
staff.
had all these amazing people, Carl Reiner, besides Sid Caesar. And then there was the Hamilton Trio, which was a group of dancers that did a number every week, and Imogene Coca, who was really funny, a funny woman. That's what got me hooked. That definitely got me hooked.
Love it. Charlotte?
Now let's hear from the French.
So I had to look it up because it's called Amicalement Vôtre. Tu te rappelles? Yes, I remember. So in English, it's called Persuaders. Was it? No, it wasn't popular with you.
Persuade?
Persuaders.
Persuaders.
No, the Persuaders.
It's okay, you can stick with
What
it.
was it about, briefly? What was it about?
It was with Roger Moore and Tony Curtis.
Oh.
Oh, the Saint? Is that the Saint or the Avengers?
Well, no, with Lord Brett Sinclair. No?
It sounds too smart for us. I think that's why we didn't watch it.
No, but John Barry wrote the music for us, and it was the ex-husband of my mother, and my father was very jealous.
Fun times at home.
Lovely. And Lou?
And I have to thank Mad Men because I broke up with a boyfriend thanks to this TV show because I didn't want to look like one of the characters. So, not only for that, but also thanks to that.
It's a good one. And finally, Amy, since your preference is the only one that matters tonight, tell us about your show.
You know, I don't know that I have a TV show that influenced where I am now, because I wasn't supposed to be here. I was supposed to be a dancer. Sorry, Mom. And my mother's here going. She's just adding up the ballet classes and the toe shoes, and
so
I'm going to get a bill at the end of the evening.
I was going to reference your mom later, but let's just show, where is she now so we can give her a round of applause.
Here's
where
your
is
moment.
Maven?
Here's
Is
your
she?
moment.
Here's your moment. There she
Oh,
is.
she's sparkling. She's sparkling.
Maven, correct? Maven?
Maven. Yeah.
Maven? Mm-hmm.
Maven Sherman.
Wonderful.
That's her.
Yes.
It's all her fault. I will say my dad was a comic, so my biggest. Hey, my multi-universe. You sit there and you watch it. I'll deal with you later.
She won't sit down.
Jesus.
I would call security at this point. My mother-in-law is still talking.
Sit down, lady.
You're not mic'd, Maven.
No one can hear you. You're like a sparkly mime. She's still talking. Still no one can hear you.
What is she trying to say? Somebody
Mitch,
help her.
Get Maud. Harold, get Maud under control, please.
I hope this pays off.
Okay, that's fair.
Well. Oh my God.
That was worth it.
That was.
That was worth the journey.
So your television preference, Amy?
Yeah, I had a lot of entertainment at home. I didn't
We've
even watch
officially heard
TV.
more from my mother-in-law than anyone on the panel. I mean, it's amazing.
And believe it or not, my father was the comic. So
Yes.
my father was a comic, so I will say it was the 2,000-Year-Old Man albums, Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner, that actually influenced me most. And then if it has to be a TV show, it would be Roseanne, because it was my first job. And I had no idea I was going to be a writer. And even when I got it, I thought, this is not where I belong. And then they paid me. And I said, this is where I belong. And my whole life changed.
Okay. So let's go back to the dancing. Dancing was your love. And
Yeah.
when did you start dancing? What kind of training did you have? Was it more ballet, classical? Tell us about that.
It was a classical ballet from the time I was 4 or 5 years old. And then when I got older, there was tap, there was jazz, there was all sorts of other torture. And I actually danced right up till I got my first job on Roseanne. I had a call back for Cats because I lied and I said I could do gymnastics, which I could not do. And so I wouldn't have gotten it, so it's not that tragic. But I had a writing partner the first year I was writing, and she called me and she said, we got Roseanne. And I said, what if I get Cats? And she said, you don't go. And I didn't go, and I didn't get Cats. And there you go.
And what was the first thing you wrote, even prior to that, that meant something to you? And how did you know you had writing talent? Because you don't just get a job on Roseanne. Obviously, there are years of experimentation and writing that take place before that.
Well, I was very, very lucky because Roseanne was an extraordinarily special show at that time. First of all, she was only her first version of crazy. Morphed into something very different now.
A lot of layers.
But it was still crazy, but it was very different. But it was a show completely from a woman's point of view, not a beauty, not just like an average person.
And based
with a
on her
voice.
stand-up, largely.
What?
Really inspired by her stand-up material.
Yeah, I mean, it was a revolutionary show, and in addition to the fact that it was so smart and so sharp and from a woman's point of view, and the motto was for storytelling was make the small big, make the big small. What I found out later is she had also banned the studio and the network from the set, so I had no idea that they could give notes. So. For the first 4 years of my career, it was just the writing staff and the actors, and we would go and we would say, oh, that joke sucks, and we'd go back to the room and people would eat bagels and they would go grab the variety and go into the bathroom, and it was a lot of men. It was just very upsetting. But, and the process was just the process of actual work and story and making things better and talking. And because Roseanne wanted to be out by 9:30 on shoot nights, there was no, which on a lot of sitcoms, you huddle after every scene and you pitch new jokes and you run and you pitch new. She didn't want to hear new jokes. They just made those jokes work and they all went home. And because it was this really intense but great, smooth-running, story-centric world, I thought that's the way everything worked. And then I went to my next job, and there were 20 people in suits, all the same suit, weirdly, sitting around the table. And we had a table read, and it was terrible. And I gathered my stuff because we're going to go off and work, and no one else got up. And I said, why aren't we getting up? We have a lot of work. We're going to be here all night. You've got to order your bagel. You take your variety and go into the bathroom. And they said, well, we have to get the notes. I said, from who? And they said, the studio and the network. I said, who are they? And they said, well, they're the suits sitting around the table. I said, why are we listening to them? We have work to do. And that's where I learned how Hollywood really works.
And even before that, were there mentors in your life and people who inspired you to write, who read your work and said, you've got it, you have to pursue this? Because it's a very hard job, as you know.
Bob Meyer, who ran Roseanne, was quite special. He was a very, very special man. He taught me how to run a room. He taught me how to think about story. And after the first year, and I walked up to him and said, look, I'm an only child. I can't share an office with somebody. And I really loved my partner, and she was really smart, and she was really funny, and she introduced me to my husband, so score. I just couldn't, I needed to answer my own phone. And that was back in the days where we were the only two girls, so they called us the Go-Go's, and I'm like, so I didn't want to be a go-go anymore, I just wanted to be a go. And I went up to Bob and I said, I think I want to quit writing because I can't do it as a team, and I feel too bad about this because I'm going to leave her without a job, and what do I do? And he says, well, I'll let you two split on the show. You'll both keep your job. I'll treat you as separate writers. And he was the one because he didn't want me to quit writing. And I credit him with just about everything.
That's amazing. And Daniel, do you prefer Dan or Daniel tonight?
Dan's good.
Dan's good. Okay,
He prefers Daniel, but he won't tell you that until you've been dating him for a year. And
yes.
Okay.
And we've only been dating 6 months, so
yes.
You'll find out.
We're still early in our tenure as a couple.
We're still in the honeymoon period.
So you told me a couple years ago your origin story as a couple, both professionally and personally, and I believe it was early 90s, 92, and Amy, you were in kind of a lowish point in your Roseanne run. You were having a tough time. Tell me about what you remember about the day you met and your first impressions of each other.
Jumping off from her ex-writing partner, I was working with her on a show, and she said, my ex-writing partner, Amy, I think she'd be perfect for you. I'm going to set you up on a blind date. And I said, I don't do blind dates. I'm not going to do a blind date. So she said, well, I'm going to set up a lunch. We'll have lunch, and I'll say, come by, Amy, for lunch. So Amy came by. We were sitting out where the Amazon studios are now on Washington, but they were very different then. And I do believe the first thing I ever heard Amy say, besides maybe hello, was, I'm in hell. And I thought, that's the girl for me. It's it was done. It was done.
Just a ray of fucking sunshine.
We, looked at each other across the group of guys eating bagels and about to go into the bathroom with
the variety,
varieties.
yeah.
And
some things never change.
And then I asked her for her phone number. Because back then, I don't know if you guys know what phone numbers are really, but, and the fact that you didn't have a supercomputer in your pocket, but yeah, and then it blossomed.
And when did you know you wanted to partner creatively?
To what? Right off the bat.
To partner in terms of personal and professional pursuits. Did you know that you had a great chemistry as writing partners? Because you can be a great couple and not be a great fit as creative partners.
We didn't write together for many years. We had our own separate things. We were just two writers. We were both at levels that we were both not at super high levels. So we were both just.
So yay!
Yeah. So we went out. We
non-power couple.
We interviewed for jobs. We didn't get jobs. One would be working, one's kind of looking, and that all kind of worked out. I will say there was a period in the late 90s when she was not getting a job. I was on Family Guy with Alex.
Family Guy.
That's where I met Alex. And I was telling Amy, I'm not taking credit, but I was telling Amy, just write whatever you want to write. And she ended up writing Gilmore Girls, which I'm happy with. So we had a good balance of, you don't have to push yourself. I'll push myself now, you don't. And then we started writing basically together on Gilmore Girls because it was a tough show to find writers to really understand what she was doing, and I understood what she was doing.
So before that, I do want to set the stage, if we can look back to the year 2000, 25 years ago, the 25th anniversary of Gilmore coming up this year. Incredible. And I've been rewatching the show, and the show is so striking for so many reasons, but I was reminding myself what TV looked like in the year 2000. It's very interesting. Beverly Hills 90210 ended its 10-year run that spring.
Oh, wow.
I know. HBO, of course, had Sopranos and Sex and the City. Aaron Sorkin had The West Wing on NBC. And of course, the WB, the future home of Gilmore Girls, had Buffy and Dawson's Creek. All very iconic shows. So my question, Amy, is when you pitched Gilmore Girls, and I'm assuming you pitched to Warner Brothers, the studio itself.
No,
initially?
I pitched directly to the WB.
To the WB network, okay.
And then I said to them, tell me what studio to go to that you'll put it on the air. And they said, go to Warner Brothers.
Okay, excellent. What do you remember about your pitch meeting? And did you have a log line, a succinct log line? You said, this is what the show is. And what kind of questions did they ask? Like, what do you remember about that day?
I was pitching something else that I had spent a lot of time working on, and I notes, and this is the last time I made notes for anything. I decided right then not to be prepared, and I pitched, and I'm acting it out, and everyone's Jewish, of course, because in my world that's how it works, and then I saw everybody start to talk about lunch and circle menus, and there was talk of matzo ball soup, and I'm still doing my shtick, and they finally went, okay, yeah, do you have anything else? And I said, there's a thing about like a mother and a daughter, and they're more like friends than mother-daughter. And they said, okay, we'll buy that.
And that was it.
And that was it. And I walked outside, and Gavin Pallone, who was my manager at the time, was out. I turned to him and I said, I don't know what that show is. I don't have anything more than that. That's all I have. And he said, well, I would advise you figure the rest out.
That's a good manager.
Because they would like to buy it. And we went to Connecticut, and I figured it out over a weekend, and here you go.
Wow, that would never happen today. That scenario would definitely never happen today, unless it was you, Amy, because of course it would happen for you again. So I'd like to segue quickly to Lauren and Kelly. Hi. So much love for you. It's so beautiful. What do you remember about where you were in your respective careers in the year 2000? What were you looking to do? Lauren, I know you had done a lot of television, multicam work, and also various films and the stage. And of course, Kelly, you had an incredible career on stage. And who could forget, she played Baby's mom in Dirty Dancing. Just so iconic. How did this role come to you? And
the original Sheila and Chorus Line, hello.
Yes, of course.
Hi.
Chorus Line. Incredible pedigree of talent here. What were you looking to do, and how did this show fit into your dream scenario as your next job? Lauren, maybe start us off.
Me? You're very kind to say I had done a lot of television and film by then, because I had not really. I had done some commercials in New York. I had come to LA. I'd been there for a couple of years. I was like the friend. I was a wacky girlfriend. I was very kind of not series regulars on anything. And then I started, I did a bunch of shows that got canceled after. It was a progression of a kind. Like one show got canceled after 6 episodes, and one show got canceled after 13 episodes. And so I was, when I read this, I have spoken about this before, but it is, I can never really describe the feeling of getting this script. I had a feeling of recognition and like, oh, there's my boyfriend, but it's a part and it's a character and it's like, but it was that kind of like, oh, feeling. But I was not available because I was on another show that had gone 13 episodes, but hadn't yet been canceled. And this is the day where they don't do this anymore, and also there's kind of no pilot season anymore, but you know, sometimes you'd have a pilot and then they'd cast you in a pilot behind that in case that pilot didn't go. But this was an actual show that had been on NBC, and so I waited, and we all waited, and is this too long an answer?
Absolutely not. Continue.
And it was the dream scenario of a kind, which was they wouldn't see me because I wasn't available.
I didn't want to fall in love with her. I said, don't, because he kept saying, I think Lauren's a person, the cast member. I said, I don't care, because if I can't have her, I don't want to know that she exists.
But I don't know what you would have based that on, because I hadn't been in anything that you would have been like, oh yeah, that person should be, you know?
Townies? No, I don't know.
Townies? It was Townies.
No, it wasn't that I knew you.
Yeah.
It's that she kept saying to me, I swear I think Lauren is your girl. And I said, stop saying Lauren. I don't want to hear it, because you told me I can't have Lauren. They're like, well, we don't know. I said, you're telling me she's in something else. If she's this great, she's in something else, it's going to get picked up, and then I'm going to hate you, and I'll have to kill you, and it'll be sad, and I'll be in jail, and it'll be over. And then finally, when we were out, I'm like, God, fucking bring Lauren in. And she walked in, and like after the first line, I'm like, God damn it! It was like, that was it.
And then it worked out, and the other show, it worked out in that the other show got canceled.
Yay.
And then at a party at like the upfronts a couple years later, some executive who I don't know, it's not bad, came up to me, a little drunk, and he was like, we traded you. And I was like, what? He's like, we traded you because you weren't, I wasn't available, so they traded me for some other actor that the NBC wanted, and I was like, ew. And then
it worked out beautifully.
It worked out.
It worked out. Thank you for telling us that story. And Kelly, what spoke to you about the character of Emily Gilmore? Because you have said, and you have a wonderful memoir that you wrote a couple years ago, that she's very different from you. Yeah. And that you loved her because she's so different from you. So tell me a little bit about what attracted you to want to inhabit this woman's skin.
Well, when I first read the script, and Lauren alluded to the pilot season that we used to have, and you'd wait and you'd get all these scripts, and that particular year, The Sopranos had been on, and it was a huge hit and a wonderful show. And so I kept seeing these sitcom scripts that were all about Italian families, and really funny, you know. And then there's this script that said Gilmore Girls, and it was bigger than the little sitcom scripts, and then this big fat script. And I started to read it. And it was like I came home. I was reading my grandmother, I was reading my mother, I was reading the relationship between me and my mother, between Rory and Lorelai, and it completely made sense, and it was funny. And that's the thing that got me. I keep reading these pages, and this is funny stuff, and I'm going, this is funnier than the sitcoms, and this is not a sitcom. And I loved it so much, I loved the writing so much, so that we got an audition, and I got to see you. And when I worked really hard on this, I really worked hard on that. I could have done it without the pages, but I held the pages and did the best job I could, and I thought I really nailed it. And I left, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I'm waiting for that time that usually in those days, if they really liked you and the network kind of agreed, then they bring maybe 2 actors out from New York. They'd spend the money to have you audition for the suits. And I'm still waiting and waiting, and then finally I kind of gave up hope. I didn't understand why, but I just said, I guess that's it. And then I got a call from my agent who said, you got it. And I said, what do you mean? And I didn't, I'm going to go to California and audition for and they said, no, you have it. And I said, well, Why did they wait? I don't understand. And that's when they told me that you were working on getting Lauren, and those people wouldn't let her go just to be mean, and it made.
Well, we
sense.
had her traded.
She was. And she was the star of the show, so it made perfect sense that they would cast her before they cast me. But then we did it, and God, it's been a little bit of heaven ever since, my say. Both of you.
And for us too. So, Amy, you talked about your experience with the idea of notes, this foreign concept that these executives would be telling you how to do your job, which is very horrible, obviously. But I watch the show now, and I can't help but wonder, was there anyone thinking, like, is it possible to have fewer Tolstoy references, Algonquin Round Table, Velvet Underground, and Fountainhead, like, jokes built into this show on the WB? I cannot believe some of this stuff aired on the WB. It's truly staggering.
Well, neither can they. So it's mutual.
So did you get pushback at all for writing such a smart show?
First of all, once a week, I got a call from the studio.
But before the show aired.
Before the show aired, once a week. They would call and they would say, listen, we just want you to know the network is very upset and disappointed in you and the work that you're doing. And I said, great, I'll talk to you Tuesday. Tuesday came, phone rang. We just want you to know the network is very upset and disappointed with you and the work that you're doing. And this went on through almost all of pre-production. And we were, and then we were shooting, and finally, Tuesday came. We just want you to know. I go, I know. You're upset, you're disappointed. Listen, you're not my mother. Only my mother can be upset and disappointed this much in me and get away with it. So here's what you can do. You can do two things. You're the boss, it's your show. You can fire me. I will pack up my stuff. I haven't got much here. I'll go shopping. I'm very good at shopping. I'm fine. Or you cannot call me again. I don't know why they didn't fire me, but they didn't call me again. They did not fire me. The pilot aired, they sent me flowers.
Let that be a lesson to everyone in this room.
The worst advice ever. I've just
really, truly the worst advice ever.
I also have to say, I remember scripts not really coming in with enough time for anyone to really give notes.
I would write the script at night, and then we would read it at 10 o'clock in the morning.
We get pages at that day, that morning, in the trailer, like in the makeup chair.
Yeah, I know.
So they weren't even up.
No. Yeah. Sorry about that.
It was work.
Well, eventually, then I got paranoid, because then I was like, we can't send them any paper, because if you send them any paper at all, then they're going to want to talk about it, and I can't talk to these people. So it was fine. I mean, after a while, they realized, let's talk about Superman, and they went and talked about Smallville. But it was a very hard show, because it was not a teen soap, which they sort of specialized in. It was not genre, so it wasn't Buffy. There was a lot of notes about, why isn't Rory having sex? I'm like, because she's in fucking high school and not everyone blows someone in a bathroom every day.
Cheers. Cheers.
And I have to say,
yes, no blowjobs in the bathroom.
But I have to bring up.
There were weird pushback things like that. Things about like we want Rory to have sex more, and why isn't Lorelai? A lot of like, why isn't Lorelai being more of a mom? I'm like, because that's not what the show is. And when I sold it to you, it was they're more like friends. And then my mother would call and she said, listen, I'm very upset and disappointed that you're not a dancer anymore. Have you gone out for cats? I hear they're still,
But I have to say, the thing that strikes me watching it today is how you never leaned into what I call a very special episode of Gilmore Girls.
No.
So, for example, just the idea that Paris is dating her professor. It's a little problematic. Like, even like in hindsight, never once is any judgment cast on this character. And there's no judgment about Rory's choice to have sex with her boyfriends. It's so matter of fact and so practical and so normalized. And I think for whatever age you are, whatever you're going through, it feels like, oh my God, this feels like my life. And I just think it's so special. There was never any salaciousness or leaning into that, like, afternoon special garbage. So well done, Amy.
Thank you.
Well done. And we cannot forget to mention Alex Borstein was in season 1. You may remember.
Alex Borstein was the original Suki.
She was the original Suki, which I'm sure all you guys know this already. But she then showed us her harpist skills as a heavy metal playing harpist, which was very memorable. Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
So, of course, the show ended in 2007, and 7 years later would debut on Netflix. It has since amassed 500 million viewing hours on the platform. More than Seinfeld. More than Seinfeld. And even just doing research for tonight, I was just looking up, like, quote, think pieces by, I hate think pieces, but that's what we call them. And I saw that there's a woman named Tara Llewellyn who hosts a Gilmore Girls rewatch podcast. She said the most beautiful thing, which is so true. The appeal of the show is that it's the same feeling of remembering you have a pint of ice cream in the freezer. It's so true. It's comfort. It's cozy. She's here, Tara? Wait. Tara? Where are you?
She's up there.
There she is. I see you. In the red. I just quoted somebody and they're in the audience. That's so cool. Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
She's the one with the cherry earrings, yeah? I got you, girl.
So the enduring legacy of the show is an understatement, but I wanted to ask Lauren and Kelly and Amy and Daniel, when people engage with you today about this show, what is the most common refrain of what they share with you about what it means to them and also what it meant to them when they perhaps watched it for the first time? And Lauren and Kelly, maybe tell us what you hear from fans.
Well, I think I've given this a lot of thought because people have talked about it for so many years. I think in the simplest way, the thing about Gilmore Girls that is so amazing is with all the humor and all of the bizarre characters and these wonderful scenarios, it's basically, and forgive me, it's a very sweet show.
Oh, damn you, Bishop.
I'm sorry.
Dare you.
It's kind of like, even with the strange characters who are so delightful, it's a place you want to go back to because that's what we want America to be. Good luck. That, as I said, is very simplistically, that is kind of my bottom line on it. But besides the fact that it's brilliant and it's funny, and we just love all these people, and the actors were wonderful. The writing was okay.
A little wordy.
Yeah. But that's my answer.
People say to me most frequently, I watched it with my mom, my sister, my daughter, something, and it helped us get through a rough time. So it's like a safe place to go to enjoy something with someone they love. And I think the rewatching does have to do with the complexity of the writing and the fact that it meets you kind of where you are, what age you are, and who you relate to, and grows with you in a way. And there are some references I guarantee none of us really knew what we were saying until later, and then you go, oh, that was offensive, but it was so delightfully worded that, so I think it's a combination. It is so dense that it bears rewatching, but then you can just, people frequently also say to me, I just put it on in the background, and I'm like, well, I know what you mean. Thank you. But so I think it has many levels, but it's just a wonderful place to visit, I think, is the key.
And on a more serious level, we get a lot of people talking about healing from surgeries, from
cancer,
medical things, a lot of that kind of stuff. Like they watched it or they watched it with family members while they were healing. So that's always amazing to me because that's something we cannot ever plan on as we write these things, as we produce these things. So that we get that a lot, like a whole lot.
That's an amazing gift. And I actually have a friend who said the same. Her daughter was going through cancer and watched it in the hospital. So
Yep.
It's just,
Yep, we get it a lot.
An incredible gift. Okay, moving on to a show called Bunheads, 2012. A wonderful gem of a show that aired on ABC Family and featured Amy and Daniel and Kelly Bishop, of course. When Bunheads was announced, a story ran in the trades that featured a quote from Amy saying the following, quote, "I spent 20 years of my life with my hair in a bun. I was supposed to be a dancer. My mother was a dancer. Her greatest heartbreak was when I got on Roseanne." So while writing Bunheads will never equal playing Rumpelteazer in a bus and truck tour of Cats, it does let me tip my hat to a special time in my life. So this encourages me to ask you, Amy, what did you learn as a dancer that you have brought into writing? They both require rigor, a lot of dedication, exhaustion, competitiveness. So tell me what you learned that has translated.
Rhythm was the main thing. And actually, it affected my directing even more than my writing. Because my writing is Borscht Belt for Irish girls. But the directing is where the pace and the energy and the motion.
A lot of choreography.
Yeah, it's a lot of choreography, and that is, I think, where that and the 3 back surgeries that I had that came into play a lot. So it was very instrumental in everything that I did.
But also discipline. I mean, the incredible discipline that dancers
really,
have to have.
Discipline, and also it's a pure love of. I will say this. Part of my brazenness, my schmuckiness, depending on whether you're working a network or whether you're on the other side, comes from the fact that I had no concept of I want to be rich, I want money, I want fame, I want to be successful. I didn't know about the structure of being a writer, or that, at the time that we started writing, writers, you could make a lovely amount of money and never create a show. You could just work on shows, run shows, and they would throw money at sitcom writers at the time, because sitcom was king. But I came from a world where you worked for the work. It was the work that was important, and that's dance, because no one makes a dime in dance. Maybe Brosnahan sometimes made like a dime. Misty Copeland made a couple of bucks. That's it. You got 2. And it's something you have to just love so much that you just do it because it means something to you. And I think that is why I would look at a story, I would look at a character, I would look at a script, and I kind of wouldn't care if it was going to hurt this, then I wasn't going to do it. So it's part of the reason I'm just a giant pain in the ass, is because that was sort of my sole focus.
Love that. And Kelly, what did you enjoy about playing such a different character from Gilmore Girls? And Fanny Flowers was her name, which is such a great name. What a great creation.
Well, it was amazing to me. I mean, first of all, we went back and forth a lot as far as Bunheads, because I realized I really should do every show. And unfortunately, at that time, my husband was quite ill with cancer. And I knew I had to spend time with him. He didn't want me to go out and do it. And I wanted to be with Amy and do the show. And I wanted to be with my husband and be his wife and, help him through all of this. So I think it was kind of a sacrifice that Amy hired me, because she knew it was going to be difficult. And she did it anyway. And of course, the one thing that we have in common that I hadn't even realized when we started Gilmore Girls was the ballet. I was raised as a ballet dancer in a very strict Russian school. I mean, I didn't get to do tap and jazz. I mean, that was... No, we didn't do that.
And prostitutes did tap and jazz.
Exactly. It's true. So going back to that, and I mean, I think when you love ballet, you always love it. And it's in you, and it's the same thing you talk about, the rhythm, the discipline, you don't worry about being a star. You look in the mirror and you see what you're doing wrong, and you know you can make it better, and you compare yourself to other people, and all you want to do is dance. And dancers never make money. They really, there are a couple here and there, but that's not why you do it. You do it because you love it, and then fortunately you're good. You're good at it. You have good training, and you're blessed with that. So I had a career as a dancer for like 12, 13 years. And I probably would have continued if we all as athletes didn't realize that it's only going to last so long. And I wanted to act, and so this was a perfect combination, and I'm thankful to Amy for giving me that opportunity. I remember that one day on set, I was practically in tears, and I'm not much of a crier at all. And Amy said to me, "Are you all right?" And I said, "I'm trying to serve two masters," meaning the show and my husband, and I was so torn. But I did this anyway. I did the show anyway. Okay, Lee, honey, stay well. I hope you're still alive when I get home. But this is showbiz.
Well, I'm sure it made him happy.
And the funny thing was, Sutton Foster was in Anything Goes on Broadway when we shot the pilot.
Yeah.
And I got her out of her contract to do the pilot, but Kelly went into Anything Goes, and I couldn't get Kelly out to do the pilot. And I'm like, how the fuck did I get the lead of the Broadway show out, but they won't let Kelly out? So I actually had to shoot the pilot with someone else, knowing there was no way this poor woman was going to do I'm just going to wait for Kelly to get out of Anything Goes and reshoot the pilot. I should have told the network that, but you know.
It slipped your mind.
It did. I just completely went, I just don't know where it went my mind.
You guys are getting quite the glimpse into our business tonight, aren't you? Thank you very much, and thank you for sharing that story, Kelly. It's beautiful. And now we come to the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And I was refreshing myself on the Emmys tally for the show, and this sounds right. I'm assuming it's right. 278 nominations and 104 wins for the show. Amazing.
That's not all Emmys.
That seems excessive.
That's probably, I think we won 22 Emmys. We got a lot of nominations.
I'm just going to pretend that that's
We
right.
won a lot of other awards, though.
You did win a lot
There were
of
others.
awards. A lot of awards. So, Amy, you told me something a couple years ago that stuck with me, which was, in a lot of ways, there were things you wanted to do on Gilmore that you didn't have the budget and the crew to do. And in a lot of ways, Maisel was an expression of a lot of those visions that you hadn't been able to see come to fruition. What are some of the things that you were able to realize with this show that you hadn't with Gilmore?
Well, we had no money on Gilmore. Drew Carey would send us their water and their leftover cake when someone had a birthday, and we were very grateful for it. We had just zero money, which is why I just walked Lauren in a circle in Burbank endlessly because we couldn't go anywhere. We didn't have any. So it's like, it's Burbank, there's mountains, but it's Connecticut, you figure it out. So Dan and I would often say to each other, drunk usually, and late at night after we'd been working all day, that like, oh, if only we had like the money to, you know, to go on location and to like bring the beauty in, and we had the crew that can pull up all these wonderful things. And so when Maisel happened and they gave us the money and we got this unbelievable crew, which was the best crew in the world. These guys had been together since like they went to Sopranos and Boardwalk Empire, and then they were on a show called Vinyl. And Vinyl had just been picked up when they picked up Maisel.
The Scorsese, Terrence Winter.
Yeah, it was like a cocaine and 70s and fucking a counter and I don't know. Yeah, so, and then for some reason HBO decided at the last minute to unpick up Vinyl. So I had a whole crew of great people with no work. And like the angel of death, I just sort of swept in and got them all. And because our producer was Dana Gilbert, who came over there, and she kind of whispered, she goes, listen, I got a lot of good people who are upset right now, can't pay for their kids' schooling, so I'm just saying. So we scooped up this genius bunch of madmen, and for the first time, we had everything that we needed. We had the cast, we had the crew, we had the cash, and literally it was like, we're like, well, the only people who can fuck this up is us now.
Yeah,
like, can't blame it on anybody else.
Yeah, it's the first time we've been in a position where it was only us that could get in the way.
We got a little nervous.
But, also, there was always Lauren's gonna know this, like there was always a thing in TV that they would give money to dramas, so like Hill Street Blues and ER, and they would get a budget. But comedies, the community felt were just like, you just get a bunch of funny people in a badly lit set, and they say a bunch of funny things, and then you're done. And we always wanted to show that you could do a comedy with high production values. The production values would not get in the way of the comedy and would enhance it. And I think Maisel gave us the opportunity to do that. And I think we did do that.
You did. You absolutely did. And for the Maisel actors present tonight, Rachel, what do you remember about the first conversation you had with Amy and Dan about the show?
Oh gosh. Well, I like pre-screened for Maisel because I'd been dying and crying for like the last 5 years, and and nobody
Not doing a lot of funny stuff.
told explicitly, in fact, that I was the comedy killer, and so I was being pre-screened to death, and then got asked to come out to LA, I think.
Yeah, and you were sick and blonde.
Sick and blonde. Oh my God, I was blonde.
You were blonde.
I forgot. Yeah, I was deathly ill and sweating and really disgusting and unpleasant to be around, and trying not to give everyone the plague, and blacked out completely, and you guys said okay.
Well, we had blacked out too, so
That's great.
It was perfect
for all
timing.
of us.
No, I mean, it was like a really difficult audition process because like Rachel had to do the breakup scene, the wedding toast scene.
The breakup scene was the only one I felt good about.
Right. And the stand-up. And the stand-up was just her doing the jokes and me going, hey, ho, like trying to be the audience because there was no one else.
That is true.
Yeah.
You were behind the camera going, woo!
Yeah, woo, yeah. Kind of sounding leering and kind of weird, like, woo, yeah. But,
And Rachel, you had no stand-up experience. You'd never done that kind of work before.
No, definitely not. Actually, I remember, and we've thought about this over the years, I remember so clearly because I'm so traumatized that when we were prepping to do the pilot, we were taped out on a floor. All the sets were taped on the floor, and we were rehearsing, I think it's Diner maybe. And Amy turned to me and was like, I think you should go do some stand-up. And I was like, no, that's like asking the doctors on Grey's Anatomy to perform surgery to get ready for the show. You did, and you were like, I'll write it for you.
I never would have sent you out
I would never have forgotten that moment. I was like, should I quit?
To do that.
I was petrified. And I just repeatedly you were like, I'll write it for you. And I was like, no, I'll never show up to day one.
Look, she's very cute, but you can't trust a word she says. That's not true.
I could never, ever have forgot. I remember
but what is true is we have been fighting about this for years.
That is true. Either way, it didn't happen, and we shot the pilot.
We shot the pilot.
Yeah.
And Amy, to what degree did you custom make Susie Meyerson for Alex Borstein?
Oh.
Okay, now this is something that we've been fighting about for years.
Here's another fight.
Here comes the second fight. I wrote it for her.
That's not true.
God damn.
No, we did. It was written for you.
I fucking wrote it for you.
No.
There's a pattern here. You are a liar.
No.
He's a liar.
Miriam, your daughter's a liar. I don't want to further complicate this, but I read it and I said, that's Alex, right?
No.
And Amy just went like,
You did not.
No,
Lauren Graham would not lie.
The grudge
She would
was
not lie.
it was written for you, but we still had you come in and audition.
there was,
Which is fucked up.
I believe there was a Puerto Rican woman that was up for the role before me. Tell me I'm a liar.
You're a liar.
Song was written for you, Alex Borstein.
Accepted, Alex. It was written for you.
Whatever. I wanted to play Lenny Bruce.
Similar wardrobe. Actually, Susie a bit more masculine than Lenny.
It's true.
So on the subject of Lenny Bruce, Luke, you're the only person I can think of immediately, certainly on this stage, who is playing a real life figure. And that is a tricky tightrope to walk. How much did you know about Lenny as a performer and his material, and how much of what your approach to this character was invention, but also, okay, I want to lean into the research? Like, tell me about that balance. It's very difficult.
I knew a lot about Lenny because I was very sort of intrigued by him as a teenager. And I kind of thought, when I was young, I thought, oh, that's a guy I'd like to play one day.
You actually thought that as a teenager?
I have a high school project. It was like a journalism class where I interviewed myself, and you know, I was this very successful actor. And it talks about like, oh, he's just, you know, he won a Tony doing Waiting for Godot with Nicolas Cage. Was in the Zoo story with Dustin Hoffman, and it said, and in this article, it talks about how he's going to be coming to New York this fall to play Lenny Bruce in.
Did you know this story?
In a play.
He told it to me eventually. Yeah.
And I had forgotten about it. In season 2, I went back and my dad has collected a binder of clippings, and that was in there, and I was like, I'd forgotten about it.
That and the little hobo.
And the littlest hobo.
You know we're all going to look that up on YouTube tonight.
You're going to find it. You're going to be up all night.
I'm intrigued.
I'm telling you.
I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, so I knew about him. And I'd actually given up on him. I kind of, the first time I came to Los Angeles, I went to Amoeba Records and I bought his Carnegie Hall album. It was like 2003, and I hated being here, and I couldn't get arrested, and it was miserable. And I just drove around in this convertible Mustang.
So many secrets are coming out tonight.
But I listened to Lenny. I listened to that album over and over again, and I listened. There's this thing that keeps happening, and I was like, "What's wrong with the recording?" Then I realized he was snapping. Anyways, all that kind of went away, and then like whatever this was, 12 years later, I got asked to audition, and I kind of thought, "Oh, I don't think I'm. Oh, what? I don't know. I don't think I want to do this."
But that was at the audition.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's not how you're supposed to audition.
Right. Yeah, well, it worked. I don't know, whatever. Anyways, but I had just gotten married, like the day before I got the sides, and so I thought, well, I need to be responsible now. And then I kind of went. They had Lenny's airplane glue was part of the audition, his bit, and they told me it was available on YouTube. So I then got to watch. I'd never seen Lenny as a young man. I'd only seen him in his interview with Nat Hentoff kind of towards the end of his life. So I had this impression, and then I saw this guy that was just so full of life and fun, and it was, it kind of, blew open the door. And I just was so smitten with what I was seeing, and it made me really excited to stay up all night.
It worked out, clearly.
Yeah, it did.
And it's hard to imagine, like 2 years ago, around this time, I was on the stage with you as you were about to say goodbye to Maisel. And it still hurts that the show is gone, but it's always there for us to rewatch. But I'm curious, looking back on the way you ended it and how it's sort of taken place in your soul over the last 2 years, Alex and Rachel, how does it feel now to look back and have a little distance to what you did and were able to achieve together?
Oh, man.
Go on.
I'm just so proud to have been a part of it. Like, it really, I'm emotional. I started the show when I was 25, and I grew up on it and was raised by these people.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm in therapy for the rest of my life.
Very cool parents.
But it was really, we say it all the time, but I think this is true for Gilmore too. It was like lightning in a bottle. We just feel so lucky. We got to have this family and this crew that we stole from vinyl, and Amy remains the angel of death in all of our lives.
It was an amazing arc on Maisel to take him into old age too. I mean, it was amazing to spend.
Traumatizing.
That was traumatizing.
Yeah, so we
God.
took the character from 25 years old all the way to 80-something years old.
Tell me about it.
That was awful. That was really
That was rude. That was when we knew they
fantastic.
hated us.
It was mean. It was really mean.
That was fantastic.
They did like a casting of your face. And then they sent me into this place, and Amy said, have your mother go with you. I want them to see what your mother's face looks like. You remember that?
I do. Because your mother looked great, and they made you look like you were Baba Yaga.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I went in hoping to look like a Gabor sister, and I ended up looking like fucking Gollum.
Precious, my precious.
Yeah. That was disturbing.
Well, outside of the prosthetics experience, Alex, how did the show help you see yourself in a different light in terms of what you can do as an artist? Because you did a wonderful stand-up special around the same time. Do you have other things you want to do now that you kind of feel like, okay, I pulled that off, I can do this too?
No, I feel like I'm done. I feel like I've been really lucky in this business.
You're too young to be done, Alex.
You know what, though? I've been on Family Guy for 25, almost 30 years. It's still running. I was on a sketch show called Mad TV that was nuts. I got to do this thing called Getting On that stole my heart, and then Maisel, and it's like, what am I gonna do? What? I'm just now.
You made a good case. You are
Alex,
done.
Alex quit.
You're gonna
like
do whatever
6
I
times
fucking
a
do
year.
next. That's what you're gonna do.
No, you know what I learned?
You're not going anywhere. You're not retiring. That conversation's over also.
What Maisel did for me, Susie's character, really changed my life in a lot of ways. That even though it wasn't written for me, the character, the line that she says in the pilot episode, and I'm going to get emotional saying it too, but I won't, is I'm not afraid of being alone. I just do not want to be insignificant. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks and is so true. And I learned from Susie. I used to, I think, have trouble being alone and worry so much about that. And I don't now. And I feel significant. I feel like I did something.
I think about that line a lot too, actually. It's very resonant. Thank you for that. Beautiful. Yes. This is typical of a Amy Sherman-Palladino show, just veering into sentimentality and then some like egregiously off-color remark, like just like changes everything in an instant.
Well, tits up is, hashtag Me Too classy.
True.
Whereas,
true. Good point.
Like it replaced the olden days. Show us your tits.
It's a good point. A lot more female empowerment and tits up. And now we come to the new creation, Étoile. Which premieres on Prime Video April 24th. I can't wait for people to watch it. So, Dan, this is the first series that you have co-created alongside of Amy. Congratulations. Very exciting. I'm curious for you, after you wrapped Mrs. Maisel, in what specific ways did you want to evolve your storytelling? And how did the premise of Étoile sort of satisfy those hopes for yourself?
We generally write about blood family because they give endless stories. So this one is more, this is not blood family, this is about the family of these collective dance companies in these different cities. There was a documentary called Ballet by Frederick Weissman that showed the sort of delicate front of the ballet, the beautiful performances, and the really hard-hitting behind the scenes, because art companies are brutal. They have to be brutal to sell tickets. And so we were really interested, the Bunheads was about the kids. We were really interested in doing a show about the professionals, about the elite athletes that they become. So we were just really interested in the dynamic of and the struggle to do it, the interchange, the sexual hijinks, all that. Luke is blushing.
Luke is blushing. And so how was this writing process distinct as opposed to other series? Did you take turns on each script? Did each of you divide up? How did you?
No, we actually wrote the first 4 scripts together, but when we write together, we don't sit in a room.
Yeah,
for our
no,
marriage,
no.
Our marriage would be over.
Oh, no.
So
Very far apart.
So from Gilmore Girls on, if we're working together, we break the stories together in a room, usually with other writers. And then if we're writing something together, we'll divide up scenes. Or generally, we write our own scripts separately. We pass it on to the other person. That person marks it up, says that's good, that sucks, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how we do everything.
And it's worked for you, obviously. And Charlotte and Lou, congratulations. Beautiful work from both of you in the show. Gorgeous. How familiar were each of you with the work of Amy and Dan? Had you seen their shows, and how did you get cast? What was your process? So Charlotte, maybe you can start.
I should start. You didn't write it for me.
I did not write it for you.
But then I got lucky. I got so lucky.
And tell us who you play without spoiling, but who is your character?
I have a question. Where does that name come from? Because nobody my age is called Geneviève.
It came from Googling list of French names.
And usually it's French baby names that come up, and we picked Geneviève.
A lot of research we did.
So I met you in New York, and I was offered the part. I was so happy to be involved in what I could see today is a family. You know, it's a family, and the crew is a family, and the other actors are family. It's very special for me. Also coming from movies where you shoot for 2 months and then it's done, and you don't see the people again. So it's very touching.
And what can you tell us about your character without spoiling anything? Yeah, just who is she?
I'm pretending to be a very strong business woman, passionate about dance, and she's the head of the French dancing company. I have decided
Yes, you did.
to exchange our companies, to mix it up. That's it.
A great premise, such a clever premise. And Lou, it's so nice to see. I hadn't seen your work before. You are so magnificent in the show. I can't wait for people to discover how talented you are. How did you discover this incredible group of people, and what attracted you to play this character? And tell us about her.
Oh, you know, I have done a casting, a very classic casting, and I didn't speak English, so I thought it's impossible to me to have this part, but I try, because if you
Your
don't
English
try
is amazing. Congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, but the funniest thing, it was the callback, because when I have done the callback, I thought, okay, now they will realize that I can't speak. And that's a problem. But Amy speaks a lot, so I was so lucky with that.
There you go.
Thank you. And they give me the role, and it was crazy. I was really lucky, because I was lucky to learn English, to relearn ballet, because I have done ballet, but I stopped. So I was like an old lady doing dance, and I had everything to learn. So I was so lucky, and I agree with Charlotte. I met such beautiful and respectful and nice people, with actors, with human beings. So yeah, I'm lucky to be here.
Congratulations.
It's a real, I mean, all of these actors, it's a high bar, because we throw a lot at actors, especially our lead women, but there's a special level of difficulty for these 2 women who were throwing all these American expressions and things. we had to have some of these scenes translated into French, which was a whole journey. You had to find the right person to interpret our stuff. And it was like, I felt sorry for both of you during some of these scenes. It was like, it was such a high bar for you guys, and you guys were just so amazing in it. I mean, it's great to work with actors who are just hungry for challenge, because you have to be hungry for a challenge to do what these two ladies did in
It was pretty extraordinary. I will say, like, I got a call that said Charlotte was interested in talking about the part. So I said, well, I'm getting on a fucking plane. So I got on a plane, and the plane had a problem, and I ended up in Bangor, Maine, at some sort of secret spy airport that there was just no one there, and there was mist outside, like a zombie movie, and I sat there for 12 hours on the floor while children starved and parents cried. And I kept texting people saying, tell Charlotte I might be a little late. Like, it was just like, and so finally I got there, and I got in, and I showered, and I changed, and I drove and I thought, oh God, how do I talk her into doing this? Because I've been in Bangor, Maine all night, and didn't have my tap shoes on, and we sat down to she walks in, and like, if you've never walked into a restaurant with Charlotte, you gotta do it at least once, because it's like walking in with Princess Diana. And like in Paris, you walk in, and like people fall to the waiters will push people out of the way. Oh, it's Gainsbourg. And she's got the hat and the thing. She's the coolest looking person in the world. It's really irritating. And it's horrible. It's just bad for your self-esteem on every level. And we sat down, and I was so hyped up, and I feel like I can't even, it was a blur, because I can't even remember. I just remember I've talked a lot. And at some point, Charlotte just sort of looked at me and says, no, I just want to do it. And I was like, oh, I didn't have to do any of this. I didn't have to tap dance. I could have just calmed down and talked to her like a human being. It was just such a weird, cool, interesting, because it doesn't usually go like that. You know, actors don't usually say, like, I want to do this. They'd sort of like, you know, it's like a dance. There was something sort of very like, it was just great and cool and fun, and I got to call him and say, I don't know if I'll ever make it home again, because I don't trust planes, but, you know, I love you, and look in Bangor, Maine if you can't find me, and oh, by the way, Charlotte's in. So that was like, boom. Lou, they send nowadays, since the pandemic, actors don't come in and read anymore. They don't want human contact. I don't understand that, but, so everything's on tape, which is delightful for someone like me who wants to talk to somebody. So I'm just yelling at a computer screen. But the second all these list of very accomplished, wonderful actresses. By the way, French actresses don't put on any makeup for auditions, just so you know, and they all look incredible. So don't go to France. It's just horrible, and we can't win. Let's just stay here and take our Ozempic, and just don't do it. Just stay here. It's safe here. So I click on Lou's tape, and 2 words in, I swear to God, I froze it, and I texted Dan, I go, we got her. I go, watch number 2. I mean, it was just the attitude, the look in the eyes. I mean, she's so extraordinary, and I'm so appreciative of her, because when I directed her, I would run up to her, and I would start directing like I would direct Rachel or Lauren, and I would talk a lot. And I'd be like, and then I realized halfway through, I see the curtain come down. I just see her waiting for me to stop talking so she can turn to somebody who speaks French and say, what the fuck did she just say? She want me to come in faster, or from the right? Did I do, like, literally, and my relationship, a lot, and I learned it by the end. By the end, I saw the curtain, I went, oh, okay, you don't, oh, okay, it's bad. I'll back up, and I'll be like, Danny, come in and tell Lou what I'm talking about. And then there were days where I had Lou, and you'll see when you see the show, which you have to watch because my heart is in it now.
But you have to know, I do the same with French people, even when I understand. That's my problem.
I feel better now. But it was delicious working in Paris. It was delicious working with these women. It was delicious working with the French crew. They're great. 10 hours, they're gone. 10 hours. If you're in the middle of a shot, you're like, and, oh, they're gone? Everyone leaves. Just shoom, like out. It's a whole different way of working, but it means when they come in, they're focused, you get your work done, and you find out 10 hours, oh, you got all your work done. Everyone can go have wine. There's a lot of sauce, have some wine and sauce. That's all I ate for months in there, but it's a very magical experience, and doing comedy in a different language is very humbling. And I've been very lucky to be blessed with unbelievable. I love you, Luke. You know that. But the women who have walked into my life, I absolutely am not a good enough person to have deserved it.
Thank you for that.
And I got to work with two more, one who sort of understands me and one who's given up trying. And I think I'm okay with that. I think we can continue down that road. And Luke speaks French, so he can translate in a nice, calm way. It's Canadian French, but it's still French.
Still French?
Original French.
Original French, yes. So I'm getting the signs from backstage that we need to wrap, but I do have two. I know, I don't want to either. But I do have two questions from Paley members who are in the audience tonight. They've been pre-vetted, so don't worry, they're not crazy. The first is from Laura Saladino. Where are you, Laura? There she is. Oh, hi. Wonderful question, by the way. She says, Amy, you're famous for the pop culture references you've written into your shows. Is there one that you're most proud of?
Yeah, Oscar Levant, because it pissed the WB off to no end.
What was the context? Like, set it up.
I think Rory said something about it, called something at Chilton, and she used an Oscar Levant. I don't remember the line, but I just remember them calling and saying, no one's going to know who Oscar Levant is. I said, there's 6 gay guys in Ohio right now that are waiting for an Oscar Levant reference, and we're going to get them. I said, and by the way, I talk about Justin Timberlake on the next page, so just fucking be patient.
Okay, the next one is Shelby Parker. Where's Shelby? Oh, hi, Shelby. That's so convenient. You're right there. Another great question. She says, you've influenced a generation of writers. How has your process differed on each of your projects, or do you think it's generally stayed the same approach on each show? Great question.
Oh, me?
Yes, for you.
I don't know.
You're Multiverse.
I mean, look, your process is your process, but your actors are different. And the wonderful thing that I've learned is, and I didn't learn it early enough for Lauren to benefit from it. Sorry. But I learned it from Lauren in hindsight because we just didn't have enough time to talk and play. And part of it, I think, was because Lauren, I felt like Lauren and I had been separated at birth and everything pretty had gone over there with the smarts, and I got the rest. It's like if anyone knows the Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger twins. It's a lot like that.
I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger in this scenario.
He was younger. But I will say from afar, like, I really paid attention to Lauren's, like, her, and her, like.
It's like the most accurate description.
But that, I knew how to write that. Like, I knew how to harness that, and I knew how to, like, give her, my job then was to give her stuff that she could take and play with. That was my job. Same thing with Kelly. And then you go and you work with Rachel and Alex, they're different. Alex is going to hate you no matter what, and you just have to accept that. And every day you're going to say, good morning, Alex, and she's going to say, great, fire me so I can get the fuck out of here. I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to fire you. And then we would work.
That's true.
Rachel has notebooks and plans and things and charts. And the first meeting I had with her where she wanted to talk about Mitch, she came in with a thing, with a diary, she had recipes in there. And I'm like, don't you have a life? Like, what's happening? happening here? Like, it's like she's just, so again, you have to like, and then you pick up on people's rhythms. You know, I'm constantly, like Luke Kirby is somebody who thinks that he has the free will to get away from me, and he does not. I'm so mad about him as a human being as well as the incredible actor that he is. And I'm saying that because I'm talking about women and you aren't one, but I love you just as much as I love everybody else. But then I come over to France and I've got to be able to communicate. And Charlotte, you know, I learned quickly, Charlotte is an unbelievable physical person. Her face is physical and like everything, like she walks like a dude and everything is like she's on a snowboard. And I'm like it's fucking cool. So like you lean into that. So Lou just doesn't know who I am and doesn't really care. And I accept the fact that she is completely dismissive of my existence, and I thrive in that. But I also, it's you learn to create for people, your process is automatically going to change because they are not interchangeable. You can't approach any actor of any merit as they're not a plant. They are they have their own world of intelligence and thought and the way they do things. And if you don't service them, it doesn't matter how good a script is, nobody's going to see it, like it, or care about it. Everything on the page has got to come to life with the people that you're handing it to. And Luke is very handsome.
Well,
Do you
I
want to
learned it
comment?
from The Littlest Hobo. If you want to see sexual hijinks, it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. So we do have to end this event now. I know.
We end with The Littlest Hobo?
We end with The Littlest Hobo.
Amy Sherman-Palladino's Multiverse, and it lands on The Littlest Hobo.
It always does.
The word hobo. I'm okay.
I'm going to put Amy on the spot and ask you, throughout all of your humor tonight and all of your amazing gesticulations and other behaviors, I do want to ask you, how does it feel to be on this stage, surrounded by so much love, and are you able to appreciate all that you've accomplished?
No. No, that's what you do when you're dead. Like when you're dying and you're hooked up to something, then that's when you go, oh shit, it was really good. Why didn't
start watching Gilmore Girls.
And then I turn on Gilmore Girls, and then I play, you know, and then I just have Lou's face with the curtain coming down in front of me. I die.
I tried to end on a sentimental note.
God love you for trying. This is
You're no
amazing.
match.
This is wonderful, and you got my favorite people together in one room.
Yes.
And I miss them every day that I'm not with them. So thank you.
Yes. Amazing. And before we leave the stage, I just want to say thank you, and wherever you lead, we will follow. Thank you for coming. Have a great night.